but I don't know if everybody saw this article by Robert Dallek that was in the Sunday Globe about comparing President Bush's situation to President Johnson's and drawing on some analogies to Vietnam, but also saying it's somewhat different. And I guess, I mean this in the nicest way, that you guys were there back then. Are there any lessons from Vietnam that are applicable to this situation, and are they being forgotten or just ignored, or is there anything from that, or is it a completely different situation today?
I think there are pieces of it which are similar. The president does not like to be told that this is Vietnam, for many reasons, conscious and subconscious, I'm sure. And I don't think it is, except that around this time, in 1948, the question arose of what do you do next? It wasn't really working that well, and the generals, General Westmoreland, as I recall, came in with a figure a number in 6 figures. It was getting up to 500,000 total. And it was really that more than anything else, it seems to me, that kind of broke the back of the argument in Washington. But if any of you saw a column I had in the Christian Science Monitor a few weeks ago, I really think that there's a better analogy with the Bay of Pigs, because the Bay of Pigs, which no one talks about, is a situation in which an inexperienced president with bad advice launched an attack on another country on the premise that everyone was going to rise up and throw flowers at the invaders. And instead it was a terrible defeat and a humiliation and an imprisonment of 1,500 fighters. And Kennedy then said something which I found absolutely fascinating, and it's the basis of that column, really. He said, our policy was wrong because the premises underlying it were wrong. And if you stop and think about it, almost everything we've talked about tonight could be recast in terms of the premises in the heads of those who made the decision. Whether the premise was that you go into Baghdad with a minimum number of troops and you get rid of Saddam Hussein, they're going to sit still and let us teach them political science. Or the premise that, going back in history, you know, the premise that the Japanese would never attack the Americans, the premise that the Chinese would never come in if we went north, or the premise in Vietnam, which was Johnson's premise, that dominoes would fall, meaning Indonesia, meaning Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand. No dominoes fell. And in a way, we're talking about dominoes here. If there's a premise in Washington, I really do believe, the president hasn't said this exactly, but maybe not, it's not in his vocabulary, but the premise that there's a domino effect, that if Iraq falls, Syria's going to crumble, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Kuwait, the Gulfies. Is this true? Who knows? But I would not take it as empirically demonstrated by all previous adventures of the United States abroad with an underlying premise. So I think my answer to all these questions is no one has the faintest idea what the effect would be of having more security centers set up in Baghdad, in Sadr City. And then eventually we have to leave, eventually. And when we leave, will the same thing happen again as happened before? They all come back, the way they did in Ramadi, the way they have done everywhere. It's been an in and out thing because we didn't have enough troops. Maybe we shouldn't have been there, I don't know. But all I'm saying is, once you get to the point of saying, here are the options, and the president wants to send in a minimum number of troops, may not be enough, but it's more than we've got, no one knows what the effect will be. If we start leaving, no one knows what the effect will be. Some of you think that the effect will be immediate chaos in the government. Who knows? They may feel a great heat and see a great light and pull their act together. We don't know that. Well, it seems to me that's where empirical sort of research and analysis ends and the guessing game begins. And whose guess is better, the president's or everyone else's?